So now I have more thoughts. I just have unending thoughts. I just don't often make videos of things, but this is what I do when I have space and just non-pressing things. I just perpetually think about these things. So then in thinking about the video I just recorded, I was thinking, so then the question becomes, why do we see the things we see? Why do, and I mean that, again, biologically, with sight, your visual sight from your eyes, but also figuratively, symbolically, why do you see with your general vision? Why do you see the world the way that you see the world? Why do you think of the world the way you think of the world? Although thinking is a little different. I mean, I really like the Barfield levels of thinking are really important because rarely when we talk about thinking are we talking about the more fundamental levels of what Barfield would call alpha thinking. We're usually talking about beta thinking, worldview. How do I construct my ideas kind of like a puzzle? There are all these puzzle pieces, and how do I construct my bigger puzzle, which is all this is mosaic, right? Of how I see the world. The problem is that we don't often get to the level of why do I even see the individual pieces this way? Why do they manifest this way? Which is more the analytical, or it's more the alpha thinking level. And then the figurations level is just the phenomenological manifestation itself. Anyhow, but why do we? This gets into like what I would say. I've said before, a little bit is evidence is in the eye of the beholder, and this gets into the hard problem and consciousness and how the perceiver is necessary for reality. This gets into relational ontology versus a substance ontology, and again, a world of dead objects, or a world of iconic sacred objects that are simultaneously portals and images and portals to a transcendent thing that we do not yet see. Because that's what an icon is an image you see, but it's also a portal to what you do not yet see. So it contains both the salient relevance realization, it contains the revelation that you now see, the image, but it also contains all of the infinite images, the infinity behind it that you don't yet see. That's what an icon is. And I would argue fundamentally that's how humans perceive. Everyone does, no matter what. We just don't necessarily know that we do in our conscious awareness. And so part of what I think is happening now, and what Barfield was talking about with final participation, is a reintegrating of our individual personal visions, and this gets into the modern postmodern critique. This is the postmodern critique against the rationalist objectivists, is just like, you don't view the world rationally, objectively. You don't just purely see what is as an isolated, autonomous thing. That isn't how perception works. It's a world of dead objects. It's lost all communion. And so, why do we see the things that we see while others don't see the things that we see? Because that's what a lot of the modern debate of the talking heads online in politics is like, I see this, brah, which does nothing, because there are degrees to which both of those people are being honest and true. There are degrees that both of them are lying also and being self-deceived and speaking untruths, but the way forward past all of the nonsense is to recognize how our perception works, I think, which gets to my favorite quote, or one of them, but I think it's maybe my favorite, is the whole George MacDonald quote from Lilith, is the fact is no man understands anything. When he understands that is his first tottering step, not towards understanding, but towards the capacity of one day understanding. There's a fuller quote, which I'll maybe post in here if I can remember. I was supposed to post something else in the other video, but I forgot already what that was. So why do we see what we see and other people see what they see? Well, values. Values are different. What we value, and this really gets into, this kind of gets past the scapegoating and the blaming of other people for how they see the world differently. Because partially, at one level, especially at the alpha and beta levels, and there's an interplay, I think, between alpha thinking and figuration level. Because really, okay, it's figuration level, base phenomenology. How does the unrepresented manifest itself to us? That is just kind of like sheer revelation. You know, like before you even name the thing, seeing is forgetting the name of the thing one sees. So when you see a tree, a little baby sees a tree, when they first learn to like focus their eyes enough to even see, because otherwise it's just a oceanic oneness. But when they finally can focus, they don't have a name for what they're seeing. That's alpha level. They're just seeing. That's pure perception. And then they start naming it, and then they start associating the name and the image, the static. This is the entrance into the world of dead objects. Babies do, all of us do this developmentally, but we also do it, I think, in our collective unconscious too. We start, be careful of the words you use. You start using them, and then they start using you. That's what that is. You start associating the raw phenomenology with your name of it, with your ideas about it, and it becomes dead. You lose the iconicity of it. You stopped thinking about the world as icons, and to a degree you stop. This is the interplay between alpha thinking and figurations level. Because a degree that's true. You do stop seeing the world that way, but you can't completely, because that's how sight works. That's how any perception works. That's how smell works that way. Touch works that way. And so we need to stop blaming other people and scapegoating them for them perceiving the world the other way. Part of that is they can't do anything else, because we don't fundamentally control how we perceive the world. We don't have control over that. We have control over the habits that we participate in. So that gets to what I would say is the answer for the problem of what ails the world, is we need to all start voluntarily, again, non-coercively, awakening people of the need of participating in good habits. And part of what Jordan Peterson is doing is cleaning your room, making one room in, this is 12 rules, making one room in your house as beautiful as possible. When you start, what's that quote? Like, nothing changes if nothing changes is one, but it's also like, if you change something like change your perception will change. I can't remember what it is, but it's basically like if you start to change your circumstances, your surroundings, your context, put yourself in a new context, start, let's say something radical, like start participating in a historic, established, proven over time liturgical church, for example, that has borne good fruit. And yes, I mean, let's not get into the abstracted debate of talking past each other and scapegoating in these ethereal levels. But if you start participating in something like that, some non-ideological church, some non-controlling, manipulating church, which a lot of that has to do with confessionalism, because it's not operating at levels that are deep enough to fundamentally change people. It's only dealing with riders, not elephants. If you start doing that, the way that you perceive the world will start to change. And I think this is happening in the world. I think we're going through an enlightenment of sorts. I think that people are beginning to see the world symbolically, which is a positive thing in ways, but it's not necessarily good, because people will start to, I mean, we're still broken, so people will still participate in bad patterns and bad habits, and they will still use that manipulatively. Just because we begin to see the world religiously and we start recognizing that everything is spiritual, that there are transcendent patterns underneath the patterns that we can see. Again, this is back to the whole icon thing. It's not just these simple static things. There's an infinite depth beyond those things. Just because people start to consciously recognize that doesn't mean that they're going to want and value to participate in the good patterns. So I guess all of this is so again, why do people see things differently than the way that we see them? Because they're participating in different habit patterns. And a good way forward is to stop scapegoating and blaming people for the way that they see the world, because that is no good. Because we don't fundamentally know how they perceive the world. They only do. And they don't even know it that well, probably, in a conscious way. And so blaming them for the way that they see the world is pointless. What we can do is start cleaning our own room and then encouraging each other to participate in long-standing, fruit-bearing traditions that are non-coercive with other people, and that make the world true and good and beautiful. Invest in beauty, maybe. But I don't know. People don't, again, but a lot of people don't value beauty, but I'm hoping that that changes. We value, I don't know, mere function and utility, but to what end? You know, just maintaining people breathing. If we're barely doing that, well, that gets into like dystopian novels of Aldous Huxley, and then we're like the living dead, essentially. Then we're the walking dead. We are alive but not alive. To what end? Like when you've lost beauty and goodness and you're breathing, like to what degree are you actually participating in the breath of God? Then it's debatable. So Vanderclay just dropped a video. I'm gonna stop there.